Okay, so here we're going. Hope this is working. So the adult learning model. So we'll talk about the Collins window, where we look at false beliefs of the person. We'll look at inability to change current situation. We'll look at the medical model, chemical imbalance, and we'll look at the biopsychosocial model. And that is pretty strange because that's not what I'm trying to do. Okay. So let's open that. And let's annotate here. All right, so here we are in the Collins window. We look at well, first of all, let's place ourselves so we're above in wellness. Yeah. So recovery coach works in wellness, and the four causes of addiction are false beliefs, inability to change current situation, chemical imbalance, and unresolved issues of guilt, shame, and trauma. And this essentially is for social workers, clinical psychologists. So there's a lot of therapy treatment. And then here is doctors, psychiatrists, etc. And when we work, we're working in this space here as coaches. So we're trying to stay in this area here. But essentially, we live in this block. So a coach will build a container with someone and work with them to challenge their false beliefs and to assist the individual in building recovery capital with peer support groups, to improve their relationships with their medical team and their therapeutic team. Yep. So, for example, somebody's had their children taken away by social workers. They might be seeing a clinical psychologist to help them with their past or something. So, there's some therapy that needs to be addressed. They might be on a harm reduction therapy, opiate replacement therapy, something like that. We don't really care. And they might be attending fellowships, they might be going to CA or NA or AA or some sort of mutual aid group. So we're sitting over here in this area here of where recovery coaching sits. And what we want to do is not only look at the whole picture here, but we also want to look at the outside space. So what is this individual's culture? What's their background, male, female, black, white, yellow, green, blue, whatever? What's their experience when they have come into this system, and what sort of structure is relevant for them? So somebody's client experience, they might have a history down here of being incarcerated, which has caused trauma, and they might have been seeing doctors, which has caused trauma in the past. And basically, it's a bit of a fuck up because it's not working because of the historical trauma. So let's just clean up this model quickly. Let's see where we are. Okay. So we'll go back to drawing here, and what we'll talk about here is we'll talk about a culture of learning. Yeah. What are our clients' experiences and how have they learned? What type of learner are they as they entered into a culture of addiction? Yep. And they would have gone down use, misuse, abuse, dependence, whatever, and they have ended up here in dependence needing treatment. So you as a coach, you're going to come here and be part of a multidisciplinary team providing input as a professional to the clinical team that have been trained in the biopsychosocial model, the medical team, and then recovery capital mutual aid stuff. The most common one being 12-step stuff. There might be smart recovery, or there might be our own recovery wellness program, or faith-based organizations. And we as coaches, even though we are working in this area here, our job is to focus on the up, bringing people up into a culture of recovery or a culture of resilience. And that's what we're trying to do here. So that's why we have this model here. So let's clean this up again. And then I want to do the expanded Collins window so that if you're working in a Lero, you have an understanding of what we're trying to do here. So if you're working in a Lero, a lived experience organization, lived experience recovery organization, you're working here, you have a job as a leader. Yeah. You have a job as a manager. MGMT management. Yep. And an understanding of the self-help support groups. A lot of people will be coming in from those organizations to help them work, but they are not there for 12-step stuff. Yeah. They need to be developed. Your workforce needs to be developed. And this is what we're doing over here. We're developing a workforce. And we are not in the medical space or the clinical space. And we really got to be careful about this as the standards go up. Because here in the UK, we've got the NHS, and we've got to make sure that people with lived experience over here don't get polluted by the history of therapy and psychology and wound-based psychology, that is very well and welcome, but we are really working in a new field. We're working in a new area. We're working in this space. Yeah. And we've got to understand that these two legs that we have from the center here, I'll try another color, maybe it's a bit brighter. From the center here, yeah, we've got the 4Q model, which is going up this path here, and then this path here to create and develop leadership and management skills. So that's really what the systemic wellness practitioners training is about. So this is where the SWP sits, systemic wellness practitioner, because they're developing the individual in their professional role within the organization. Sorry, I'm running out of colors here. Let's see. So let's clear the board. Yeah. And let's see where an organization lives. So let's take RAW, for example. Okay. So RAW is a lived experience recovery organization. Yep. Run by peers. And it was supported by, it has a history from the, I think it's the Forward Trust. Forward Trust, the Forward Trust gave money and put it in to create a Lero. Yeah. And we've been working with them. And really what we're trying to do is expand this. Yep. And to get the leadership and the management correct, and that sits in PQ. So that sits in political intelligence, PQ. The leadership here needs to build relationships with commissioners and other professionals and to understand their role and where they live. So they come from this area here. Yep, some people, they share their story, and they also need to understand how their management works together. So things like safeguarding, DBS, all that sort of stuff that's required by commissioners to make sure that you're running a professional organization, and you need to measure the return on investment, the recovery capital, and see how that works. So that really just gives an overview of how we place the Collins window, and we look through the lens. And the reason I keep going on about the Collins window is I really want to protect us and the work from the traditional wound-based stuff. Yeah. So lived experience sits up here in wellness. Sorry to keep going on about that. But if we look at this structure here, we sit in the place of positive psychology. Yeah. And then down here, I'm going to say negative psychology or wound-based psychology. Yeah. So you'll interact with a therapist or someone, and they'll go and they'll look for the wound. What's the problem? What's the trauma? Whereas strength-based psychology is you used for a reason. It was very good that you used. Now the drugs have stopped working. What are you going to do now to live the life that you want? And then you start to do the asset mapping and to see what strengths are available in this area here as you go out into the public. I do hope this is helpful. Yeah, and I feel strongly about naming this as the Collins window because I really want to protect this space. I really want to protect the profession and this space here because we do a lot of work, and we've been marginalized, stigmatized, pushed aside. Our stories have been used to improve treatment outcomes. However, our learning styles are different, and it can feel a bit abusive to people. Yeah. And this isn't me knocking any individual in particular. However, the system is created in a way that we need to protect the professionalization of people with lived experience. And we also need to protect the public from people with lived experience. So we really want to create PLEROs, professional lived experienced recovery organizations. Professional lived experience recovery organizations. And yeah, so that's what our training is about and what we do. And we're starting with the sober companion. Companion. And we're starting that on the 16th and 17th of February. And we use Mauni intelligence to improve treatment outcomes. So using technology like this to make things better. I do hope I haven't rattled on too much. Thank you for watching.